Welcome to the Blender Basics video tutorial series. We are continuing with Chapter 3, Creating and Editing Objects, Part 2. My name is Jim Chronister, and you may download the Blender Basics Classroom Tutorial Book from Central Dauphin School Districts at www.cdsschools.org/cdhs. Go to Staff, look for my name, and you'll find a link to all of my class pages. Okay, so we're going to get started here and start out with a new file. The first thing I want to do before we go back and finish up the lighthouse is that we want to show you how you could create, say, a Blender logo using a background image. So I'm in here in my principal user perspective view. I'm going to first hit number 5 on my number pad, change it to an orthographic view, hit number 7, switch to a top view, and turn off this nasty transform widget because I hate to use it most of the time unless I really need it to control an angle or a location. So I'm going to delete the initial cube, hit the delete key on my keyboard, delete it, and before I start adding anything, I'm going to minimize my toolbox over here, my tool shelf, and I'm going to open up my transform window. Okay, so click on the small plus, or again, you can hit N on your keyboard for numeric input. Alright, if I scroll down this menu, down towards the bottom of it, we have an option here for using background images. So I'm going to hit the check mark, I'm going to hit the small black caret to open that up, and you see an option here to add an image. And I'm going to keep scrolling down on this thing, and it's saying it's not set, so I'll click on this little white triangle here. And then you finally get to a box that says Open an Image. So we're going to go to Open. Now by default we're browsing by titles and folders, but there is an option here also across the top where you can change your view to display as thumbnails. So we're going to open this up to display as thumbnails. I'm going to go to my Blender Basics 4 folder, and let me see, go to Documents, Blender Basics 4, there we go. And I've already downloaded off the internet a Blender logo that I want to use. So I'm going to select it, hit Open, and voila, there it is. It shows up in my background viewport. Now as soon as I start to rotate off of the principal view, it goes away. It will only show up in a 7, a 1, or a 3 view. So we're going to work on just a normal top view, a number 7 top viewport. Alright, so I want to make a mesh that looks like this Blender logo. So how do I do that? Well, let's start off with a flat two-dimensional plane first. So spacebar, or I'm sorry, not spacebar, I don't have my dynamic space turned on right now. We're going to use Shift-A to add a new object. Add a mesh, add a plane. Alright, let's see, it's going to be very hard to shape a plane into all that curved circle area, so we're going to enter edit mode, and I'm going to delete one vertex. Just right-click to select a single corner vertex, hit the delete key, and choose to delete vertex. Now I'm going to take these vertices and kind of move them with the G key to grab them and put them in a location where I want to work with them to begin with. So I'm going to put them going down this corner here. And now I'm starting to outline the Blender logo shape. So all I need to do now is continue to hit E to extrude, just like we used E in the lighthouse from the last exercise. E to extrude, I'll continue to extrude vertices off. Now, the smoother and more vertices you add of your image, since I'm kind of stuck with limited time and space, I'm going to do a really quick Blender logo here. It's going to be embarrassingly simple here. Whoops, I didn't put that vertex where I wanted to go with it, so let's put this one down a little lower. I'm going to follow this outline shape. It's up to you how you want to try to do it or which Blender logo you find, but I'm going to do a very, very simple one here because I do not want to take a whole lot of time today on this. And boy, you're going to see a really simple circle here. If I were doing this for a good project for something, I would really take my time and add a lot of nice vertices to this. You know, if you're making something for ESPN Sports Network and you're doing a logo for something, you want to do something nice. Not that I've ever had the honor of doing anything like that, but okay, now I get to the end. I have a hole here. Don't try to extrude another vertex on top of that one. Just select the two vertices that you want to join and hit F, which will actually face it off and close that shape for you. Now I have to go around the inside too, so I'm going to right-click, select a single vertex, hit Shift-D to duplicate it. Shift-D will let me duplicate that vertex, put it around the inside ring, and now from there I'm just going to continue to extrude. Now what could I have done? I could have added a circle that wasn't filled. There's a lot of things you could do. And again, I'm doing this very, very rough, very simple. I'm not even going to bother doing the green circle in the middle because once you know how to do the outside, you can do the inside. Again, I get close to the end, so leave that space, select both of the end vertices, and hit F to face and fill it. Alright, so right now, do I have a shape? Well, if I start to spin it, Nope. If I hit A for all and select all vertices, you see what I have so far. If I hit F12 to render, I know the camera would be looking at some of it. I don't see anything. Okay, that's because it hasn't been faced yet. So there are several ways that you can face off an object. I could select up to 4 vertices and type in F to face or fill. And there we go. I just made one face in there. Now let's see if the camera's looking at it. And right there it is. There's that one face that I just made. Okay, well that would take a long time, especially if it's a complex shape. So I'm going to hit Control-Z back and get rid of it. There is an easier way. I'm going to hit A for all twice to deselect and then select all vertices. Okay, they've combined a lot of the fill commands in Blender, but if I hit Control-F, you'll get an option in here of a menu of everything you can do with faces. So again, Control-F with all faces selected. There's a fill option in here. Let's hit that. And voila, it filled the entire face. Now, if for some reason you have double vertices in there, or you extrude it once and you didn't move it any place, you got a double vertice, it's not going to know how to handle it. So if it doesn't work for you right off the bat, I'm going to hit Control-Z to undo it. With all vertices selected, you could go into the tool shelf, and you could go down through here and you could look for the option that says Remove Doubles. And it will tell you if there are any doubles in to remove. Okay, in this case there weren't. Okay, but you could also do the old-fashioned W key and tell it to remove doubles, and it'll tell you nothing to remove anymore. So again, Control-F to get the face menu, and let's fill it. And it looks pretty good. I've got a lot of triangles. What it's going to do is try to do triangle meshes for everything. Sometimes you don't want triangles. Sometimes a square would be a better way to go. So we'll hit Control-F again, and then I could choose this option here to go from tries to quads. So let's go triangles to quads. And it'll try to minimize everything. If I hit F12 and face it, look at that, I'm getting a Blender logo. And if I switch to a front view now, number 1 on my front view. Now, I don't need the background image, so I'm going to turn that off for the time being. Let's go down through here. And where I get to my background option, we'll turn it off. And I could hit E to extrude. And I could give that Blender logo some thickness. And now when you look at it, let's go back over to object mode. Now it's starting to look like something. Okay, so again, this exercise is background images, creating faces, and extruding things will work pretty well. Now, what I want to do is go back and let's finish our lighthouse activity. So let's go to File, open Recent, and bring up our lighthouse. So what do we need to do to our lighthouse right now? We're ready to start looking at, okay, that's still a render window left over. Let's escape out. So here's my lighthouse. Let's get rid of the tool shelf for now. And let's start looking at using some Boolean modifiers in here. Because we want to cut some lighthouse, or some windows in our lighthouse, so that this scene looks pretty good. Okay, so first thing I want to do, I want to create a little cube somewhere. So I'm just going to go off here to the side with my 3D bullseye, left mouse button. Shift A, let's add a cube. And you can shape this cube any way you want to and do whatever you want to with this cube. I'm just going to keep it as a square, scale it a little bit with the S key, grab it, and whoops, it's inside my lighthouse. This might be a good time to switch to wireframe. Okay, so I want to cut a hole in my lighthouse. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to have it kind of slightly sticking out of the wall. So again, if I go back to solid, now you can see that cube is sticking out of the wall. Pay close attention to what the name of that object is. It will always tell you down here in the lower corner what the name of the object is. Okay, so I'm going to subtract the cube from my lighthouse. So I'm going to select my lighthouse. I'm going to go back to wireframe just so it's easier for you to see what's going on. There's the cube. There's the lighthouse. Okay, let's go over here to my properties menu, and you can see all my different options in here. There's a little wrench here called modifiers. I'm going to click that. When I click the add modifier, you're going to see, and we have a chapter later on devoted to modifiers. Right now we're just going to look at Boolean. So if I go over here to generate, here's my Boolean modifier. I select it. So what is Boolean? Boolean is a mathematical expression where you're subtracting, adding, joining things together. So if I select that on my lighthouse, there's a block here for object. If I click in that block, it'll show all the objects that are in my scene, and I want to use the cube. Wham! As soon as I do that, it's like, whoa, where'd my lighthouse go? Well, if you look, the operation by default is set for intersect, which basically means create a new object of the thing that is shared between both of these objects. And that's all that was shared between the cube and the lighthouse. I'm going to change it from intersection to difference. And when you look at it now, it's actually cutting a hole out for that. If I go to union, it'll make a new object and it'll join that onto it. And it'll get rid of all unnecessary faces and vertices. Well, I want to go difference. And this is going to be live, meaning I could grab the cube, and as I move the cube, the lighthouse will update until if I pull the cube out of there, there won't be a hole anymore. It's a live setting. So when I have that hole set up the way that I want it to go, I will hit the apply button. When I hit apply, the modifier goes away and it becomes set in stone. And if I move the cube out of there, now I have a hole. Changes back to solid, and you see that I have a hole. So continue through with this exercise and add as many holes that you want in your lighthouse for doors. Play around with different shapes. Play around with a circular window. Do whatever you want to. In fact, at this point, you can modify this lighthouse as much as you want to if you want to add more details and more features to it. As of right now, we're finished with this chapter. Have fun modifying your lighthouse.